Honestly, when I make these cookies, I usually make 2 batches. One of them I'll cook today, and then the other I'll cook in a couple of days. Because as we all know, when you cook Christmas cookies, the first batch is for the friends, it's for the family, it's for the doorman of your building. And then the second batch, that's a very personal thing, you know? Nobody stands between me and my second batch of cookies. Welcome back. It's cookie day. We're gonna make cookies. How lucky are we? You can call these December cookies, you can call them Christmas cookies, you can call them holiday cookies. I have been making these cookies for about 8 years now. What I want in a Christmas cookie is something that flavor-wise is going to be very perfumed, is going to be very spiced, is going to feel warm, and it's going to have notes that are going to remind me of the holidays. That is what I'm going to prioritize in a Christmas cookie. My priority is not to make something look like Christmas. I much rather have something that flavor-wise works and that is functional, and for the look of the thing to follow that. So such is the case with these cookies. They're quite quick to make, with the one caveat that, you know, you might not consider this like a complication, but it does require a hand mixer. If you know anything about how I cook, and if you've been around, you know that I'm not a big fan of using machines. I'd rather use my hands whenever I can. I'd rather see and connect with what I'm doing. The hand mixer here is necessary. The reason why it's necessary is because we are going to be working with a process called creaming, and it is a process of mixing sugar and butter, but whipping air into it. I don't use it often, but when I do use it, it's because it's necessary. You really can't achieve the same results without it. Also, before I forget, and before we start with anything, I need to make a disclaimer here. What you need is room temperature butter, and you need a room temperature egg. So before you do anything, get that butter out of the fridge, get that egg out of the fridge. If you can have it resting overnight, I have my butter resting overnight. I am not afraid that it is going to go bad. Butter can last about, 10 hours or so outside if it's well covered. So the first thing that we're gonna do here is incorporating the orange zest into our sugar. So I'm gonna start with 1/4 cups of granulated sugar. And I'm just starting with the granulated sugar first because that is the sugar that its crystals are a lot more sturdy. They are the ones that are going to cause that orange zest to kind of open up. The reason why we started by doing this is because the zest of any citrus, this applies also to lemons or to grapefruit. Any citrus that you want, if you're zesting it, the aromas and the main flavor oils, they live within the skin. So the more that you break down that skin, the more they release their aromas and the more, perfumed your baked good is going to be. So what I'm doing here, by the way, is I am zesting and then rotating the orange a little bit so that I don't zest the same spot twice. So when I wrote this recipe originally, I didn't have this as a first step, meaning I didn't have the sugar being mixed with the zest. And I can't believe I wrote it that way. It makes everything that much more flavorful and special. And also it's like delicious and beautiful and fun. Like it's part of the holidays, I feel, to like grab your food and smell it and have this like tactile and sensory experience. So now that I have my zest and my sugar, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shake the bowl just to make sure that everything gets well incorporated. And then using my fingers and my thumbs, I'm gonna sort of grab the sugar and I'm going to smear it with the zest. I'm gonna keep doing this until the oils from the zest permeate the sugar. Gonna start feeling almost like the sugar can like hold together like wet sand, and the color of the sugar is going to change completely. It's gonna turn into this sort of golden hue. Also, I think this is my favorite smell in the world. Like I could be having the most horrible day and you give me this to smell and it's like instant spa vibes. This is what all of those like room vaporizers should smell like, but they never do. Now that this is well incorporated, I can add the other half of my sugar, which is another 1/4 of a cup, but of brown sugar. So the brown sugar is here to give a lot more depth of flavor. Granulated sugar and brown sugar do two very different things. Granulated sugar not only helps with sweetness, but it also helps with the actual cooking. Like something happens with granulated sugar in the oven while the cookies are baking that it helps everything to sort of solidify. And when the cookies chill, it helps them get that crumbly kind of cookie texture that only granulated sugar can give. Brown sugar, however, has a lot more molasses. It's going to bring a lot more softness and it's going to bring a lot more flavor. After adding my brown sugar, I am adding my 1.5 sticks of room temperature butter. In the recipe, I call for unsalted butter. This is demi-salt, like it's half salted. A lot of cooks out there will tell you to always bake with unsalted butter so that you can control the salt. I wouldn't want anyone to not bake just because all they could find was salted butter in the supermarket. Just get salt, maybe put a little bit less salt, but honestly, it doesn't make that big of a difference, and baked goods always benefit from salt. So my secret to you is don't worry too much about salted butter. And then once my butter is in there, that's when we go into machine land, and we are going to start creaming everything. I'm going to cream for at least 6 minutes. It's gonna feel longer than you think. If your brain is anything like mine, the moment that the machine goes into the thing, a minute goes by and I feel like 10 minutes have passed. Make sure that you do this for enough time because this is the entire point of using a machine, is to really use it and to whip enough air into the butter so that the entire mixture almost doubles in size. And that is what's going to give that gorgeous height in the cookies and that beautifully crumbly, like almost mazapan kind of texture. You want to stop every 2 minutes and scrape the bowl well. Scrape the sides and the bottom and turn it into like a ball, and then start again. And then scrape your spatula because we don't waste anything in this house. So once I'm happy with it and it has doubled in size and it looks creamy and beautiful, emulsified like frosting, that's when I'm going to add my room temperature egg. Fantastic. Now that I have my beautiful bowl of emulsified, beautiful, buttery, eggy mixture, let's get started with our dry ingredients. So we're gonna start, sorry, I have to check my own recipe here. We're gonna start with 320 grams of all-purpose flour. 322, all right. That's 2 cups and 1/4 of a cup. If you don't have a scale, but you know how I feel about scales in baking, just get a scale. I'm going to combine 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1/2 tablespoon of kosher salt. Don't be afraid of the salt. That's what's gonna give it the flavor, build and amplify all of those beautiful spices. And then come our spices. I am using 3 spices here. One is cardamom, the other one is ginger, and I'm using also a little bit of cloves. The main stars here are the ginger and the cardamom. It is, I would say, 1/2 teaspoon of ginger and cardamom each, though you don't have to be super precise on this. What I do recommend a bit more caution is with the cloves. Cloves are very strong, so I would say like 1/4 of a teaspoon. So using a whisk, I am mixing all of my dry ingredients, and I wanna make sure that I whisk it really well. I wanna make sure that the baking powder is well incorporated, that there are no lumps. I'm gonna taste it actually. It tastes wonderful. I'm adding a bit more ginger. It's a weird thing to tell you to try flour and baking powder and salt, but like, honestly, it's the best way of making sure that you have something that is well seasoned. Adding a bit more salt. There we go. So now I'm going to clear everything up because the next step is to incorporate my wet and my dry ingredients. So wet ingredients go into the dry, mixy mix with a spatula, and then onto the work surface we go. So you're not looking to be too rough here. The diameter of the log is going to be how wide the cookie is. In the original recipe, I made a log that was way too long and way too skinny, and it resulted in like these like very small cookies. I prefer a wider cookie now. We grow, we change, we evolve. And that's it. I don't wanna handle it too much with my hands because my hands are hot and this is butter, so I am risking the butter melting. Covering with plastic wrap. And this needs to go into the fridge at least for 2 hours so that it can reconstitute, so that the sugar gets a chance to curate all of the rest of the ingredients. And into the fridge it goes. And because I'm a professional, I made one last night. This has been resting overnight in the fridge. The beauty about this dough is that it can stay in the fridge for 3 days. I think it's up to like, let's say 4 days. I have my oven preheated at 420, and these cookies are gonna be in the oven for not that long. They're gonna be in there for like maybe 8 minutes. Is that right? No, that is incorrect. That is another cookie recipe that I have. These babies are gonna be in the oven for a good 14 to 20 minutes. The very best visual cue is when the very top edges of the cookie start looking a bit golden. But please note, this isn't a cookie that expands, puffs, or changes that much in color at all. So you want to be observant, let smell be the biggest guide, and the biggest guide, the best guide. I agree with everything that I said. I would phrase it differently, but you have to understand, I wrote this recipe 5 years ago. I've changed, I've learned, okay? I speak better English now. When I formed this log, there was a bit of unbeknownst to me, there was a bit of a hole inside of the log. There was a bit of air. I wouldn't worry at all about this because after decorating, after glazing, after everything, they're not gonna be noticeable. But learning this lesson, I'm gonna take the dough that I just made today and I'm gonna press it and make sure that there's no air inside of it. If you squeeze it and there's air inside, you're gonna hear it. And I just noticed that. I've been making these cookies for 8 years and I never noticed that. So one batch of cookies is gonna have some mistakes and the next batch of cookies is gonna be better. And I think that that is what life is all about, to just keep making more batches of cookies and making them better every time. It's fine, it's the holidays. Let's all take a beat. I don't know if you've noticed, but for me, there's a theme here in holiday cooking, baking, whatever, and it's called low maintenance. I feel like around the holidays, there tends to be, unfortunately, an emphasis on perfection because a lot of the things about the holidays are very photographable. So people tend to look at a picture and be like, I want that the way it looks in that picture. I like being mindful of that and reminding myself that that is not what matters in the end. But my apartment is gonna start smelling like Christmas cookies. I simply cannot wait. While my cookies bake, it is glazing time. Let's talk about glaze. So in a small bowl, small-ish, I don't wanna use that large of a bowl, you'll see why later. I'm going to combine glazing sugar, icing sugar, 2 cups. I'm gonna season with a little bit of salt and I'm going to add the same spices that I added to my cookies. So I'm gonna add a combination of ginger, cardamom, and cloves. The glaze is really what gives these cookies like that last touch of flavor. When you're working on glazes, always add less sugar than you think because when you start mixing it, you realize a little water goes a really long way. You're looking for ribboning, so like when you hold the whisk up and you let it fall, the trail of it falling, it should hold, and you should be able to like draw little ribbons and the shape of the ribbon should hold within the icing. That is the right consistency. It should hold for maybe 3 seconds before it disappears. So my cookies are baked. They smell absolutely wonderful. They developed a little bit of color, but honestly not that much. As they have cooled, they have sort of crispened up a little bit, but I can tell that they're still kind of soft if I press on them in the middle, and that's what I want. When I used to make these cookies, I used to decorate them with sugar pearls, silver and gold, very Christmassy. They look beautiful. That's what you can do. The more that I grow up, and advance in my cooking journey, the less I want to call for ingredients that are not contributing to the actual flavor or construction of the dish. So I can't anymore in good conscience write a recipe where I ask you to find something that is a pain in the ass to get. Like, those pearls are a pain in the ass to get in Mexico, and they are a pain in the ass to get in Canada. They are a pain in the ass to get everywhere. I know that decorating can be something fun, and if you have children and you want to do the colors, and that's all good. I completely respect that. But I am gonna give you two options. I do have some pearls, and I'm gonna decorate some of my cookies with pearls, but I'm also gonna show you a different way of decorating them. So you take a cookie, you dip it. Sometimes you have to dip it twice just to make sure that it gets in all the nooks and crannies like evenly. And then as you put it in the sheet, you decorate it. So I sold these cookies back in 2017. I got in an accident and injured my leg really, really badly. And for months, I couldn't walk. I had like several surgeries on my leg. It was pretty bad. So I had to stop working. I couldn't go to the office. I couldn't drive. I couldn't do anything. It was around Christmas time, and in order to not go insane or broke, I started making and selling these cookies. They were a hit. I made a lot of cookies, like a lot. They kept me afloat, economically and also like mental health wise, like to have something to do, something to focus on, goes a long way. The mint really does something and like elevating the flavor. It gives it like this, I was gonna say seasonal thing, but like it really does taste like Christmas. They work really well together, like they complement each other really well. The amount of salt is perfect in this. I can taste it in a very pleasant way. The flavor of the butter, the flavor of the orange, I really love it. To me, this is the flavor of Christmas, and it always will be. I love the idea of like having certain flavors and aromas, making you think about a certain time of the year, like having that sensory experience in cooking where like certain flavors or certain smells instantly transport you to a certain time of the year, a seasonality. Bring them to the office, bring them to the function, bring them to the family thing. Have them for yourself, have them for your kids. Thank you for being here, as always. Happy holidays, happy December, happy cookie day. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.